Hello, and welcome back to the Irish Tennis Updates podcast. My name is Adam, your host. Just before we get into this week's chat with Barry King, a couple of notes. Firstly, this year the podcast has been listened to by people in 26 different countries, which I think is amazing. And just a big thanks to everyone who has shared, who's listened, and I just ask that you continue to do so. A big thanks, it does really help, and hopefully we can continue to grow this next year. Secondly, a couple of Irish tennis results to bring you. Oscar O'Husheen just last week was playing an event in Tunisia and had one of the best weeks of his career to date, qualifying through 3 qualifying matches to reach the main draw and push the 6th seed in 2 tight sets. So really promising and strong way to end the year for Oscar. Roy Keegan was playing some ITF under 18 junior events in Pakistan this month. He had some very good success, reaching a final and getting far each of the weeks he played. So it was his first ITF final. So a big well done to Roy and best of luck. And finally, Carola Bejonaru was in action in various tournaments in Greece recently, and most notably qualifying through, reaching the second round before losing out 7-5 in the third to the second seed. So some strong performances for Carola as well. Now, on to this week's episode. So I am chatting to Barry King. Barry had a successful junior career in Ireland, spent 4 years in the University of Notre Dame in the US, had a career high of 600 in the world in singles and 431 in doubles, including 3 pro titles. Some of Barry's highlights came in Davis Cup, including winning the deciding match against Tunisia in 2011. Barry now works in finance as well as being the tennis director in Westwood Leopardstown. So we talk about Barry's early days in tennis, and in particular the Casey camps and the influence they had on his development. We touch on his time in college, his best moments and the struggles on tour. He also mentions how he's stayed in the world of tennis since retiring in 2011 and a lot more. So I hope you enjoy this episode. Big thanks for listening, and here we go. Here is Barry King. Right, so Barry, a big thanks for chatting today. If you could pick one superpower, what superpower would you pick and why?
Thanks, Adam, for having me on your podcast. You're doing a great job updating everyone on Irish tennis on the news and the current information on coaches and players out there. So well done on all that. Superpower I would have would be tennis related. I'd love to be able to leap up 3 or 4 feet into the air and serve even taller than Ivo Karlovic and able to hit an ace from every corner of the box.
Nice one. It could come in handy, all right.
Come in handy, and also around the net for any volleys, for any diving volleys, things like that. So it's a bit of Karlovic on the serve and a bit of Becker around the net.
Brilliant. Just to kind of get into your sort of tennis journey, like how did you get into tennis initially?
I got into tennis kind of accidentally. I was an energetic, hyperactive kid, and we used to go for holidays. We're from Dublin as a family. We used to go to holidays in Laytown, Bettystown. Our mom was from Meath, and we lived across the road from the tennis club there, Laytown and Bettystown Tennis Club, and the golf club there. And I was a hyperactive kid, so my parents wanted me out of the house, and I spent every day, every hour that God sent in the tennis club across the road, just hitting against the wall. I'd go over there in the morning, and I'd kind of be there until 5 or 6 p.m. I'd be there from 9 a.m. to 5 or 6 p.m. Just kind of running around, hitting balls, and just using up all my energy and just hitting with everyone and just being around and hitting with anyone I could and just burning off energy. Really, no real structure to it. Yeah. I know that as you got into coaching, I know you did some work with the Casey camp. So just tell me a little bit about that for you. Yeah, so I started in Laytown, Bettystown, and when I came back to Dublin after the summer with my mom, My mom, so I was really into it. I played my first tournament, under 10 tournament, Dundalk, and I was kind of made third place age 8, and I had really no tennis practice, so I loved it and I wanted to go into it. So when I went back to Dublin, looked at getting me into tennis clubs, eventually managed to get into Rackard Tennis Club, and I started playing there, got some coaching, and made it onto the Leinster squads, and gradually got better. I just remember being third in Ireland, under 10, behind Stevie O'Connor and Paul Brickley, and then it just gradually kind of took over my life. Really, I won the treble, singles, doubles, and mixed doubles in Fitzwilliam under 12, and the national championships there. And then it really kind of kicked on a gear. I was good at soccer, Gaelic, and tennis. And then at 13, I just had to really choose what I was going to go into, and what I was really going to focus on. At 13, I chose to focus on tennis. And around this time, Paul Casey, Owen Casey, Conor Casey were the forefront of Irish tennis. They ran a Casey camp in Kiltiernan, 4 indoor hard courts. I think it was 6 or 8 outdoor Savannah courts, and it was a great place to train. It was the skiing slopes in the backdrop, and the mountains there in Kiltiernan. So it was a brilliant place to train. And I ended up really kind of, Casey camp was the focus of my training, probably from 12 to 16 or 17. And I had it. It was tough. It was innovative training, and it was there was a good group of players around my age group who were there and pushing themselves and were putting in huge hours. I can't remember exactly, but I know I was training 3 or 4 hours a day after school, maybe 4 days a week, probably 15, 16 years old. I was in Riverview. My school was near Riverview, and also Fitzwilliam. So I was playing tennis. I was playing tennis 6 days a week, and I loved it. And I wouldn't change anything about it. I was energetic, and I loved being around it. And I loved the whole scene and competing. And I wanted to kind of do everything. I did Leinster squad, national squad, Casey camp. But Casey camp was the real focus of my training. Like Paul was a coach, and he was really focused on the technical side, and really learning how to serve, and learning how to play, and learning the tactics, and learning how to construct points, and his base was Spanish drills and what decisions to make on the court, when to change direction, when to just be solid, when to be consistent. He had all these different strategies around certain points in the match, whether it was 30-all, 40-30, and it was really, really, they were kind of, Paul, Owen, and Conor were kind of ahead of their time. At the time, they were ahead of their time. It was the late 90s. Owen was just off the tour. He had been 200 in the world, so it was great to have him around. And it was a really, really good setup. They produced a lot of scholarship US players, Davis Cup players, and it was a great place to train. My group was Garrett Doran, Barry Fagan, Shane Travers, and Colin O'Brien a little bit. He was there between there and the Nugent camp. So it was a really, 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 really innovative and tough environment. There was skipping, running mountains, and there were tough drills. Paul brought the teaching methods from Japan, from Hiroshi Miyamura's setup there, and he was really, really innovative. It was in terms of learning to volley, videoing matches, charting, analyzing, exams on rituals, the 30 seconds you use in between points. And it was really, really tough, but it was enjoyable. It was a good group bouncing off each other. And the goal was, around that point, 15, 16, I was getting better. I was getting better, and the goal was, I didn't know how good I was. The goal was a lot of the guys ahead of me, John Doran, Nicky Malone, were going to college in the US, and that seemed to be the route that everyone was going. When I was 16, I was showing good potential. I beat Nicky Malone. He was a good college player, and I was playing #1 for Ireland in the Four Nations under 18, and I was at quite a good level. Won 2 of my matches there, 2 out of 3. Paul was my coach there, and I was at quite a good level. From my point of view then, from there, looking back, I was at a very good level. I don't know in college if I was. I don't know if in college if I was quite as good as I was at 16. At 16, I was very, very good. You know, I was at a high level, and I was part of that was the training I was doing with Paul and Kiltiernan camp. I was hitting with players a lot older than me. I was hitting with Peter Clark from Riverview, and Peter Clark was 200 in the world, and then I do the Casey camp and the fitness training there, and working the technical side with Paul, like pronation on serve, all these various drills. So I had a really good grounding in tennis. Like I had a really strong grounding in tennis, and I would have been at a good level at 16. And I went on trips, ITF trips with Paul to Morocco and Tunisia, in clay and tough, incredible experience. It was brutal heat there. Marcos Bagdanis was a standout player there. A great learning experience. Paul was very tough and intimidating, coach, but he got the best out of his players. He was intimidating, but he was very good. You know, he had an aura around him, but it was all positive. So I did Casey camp from 12 to age 17. I got a bad elbow injury in May 2002. It was a golfer's elbow. We couldn't really figure out what it was. It was the inside of the elbow, and I was out for about a year, and I couldn't really figure it out. After I got that injury, wasn't really able to play at all. So then I had the leaving cert, and I studied for leaving cert. So I said, right, I'm going to go to the US college route. And I looked at a few options. We're looking at Ivy League schools, Princeton and Columbia and Notre Dame. And after the recruiting trip to Notre Dame, I was sold on that, really, with the mixture of academics and tennis.
Very good.
So just looking back on my junior career, I did a lot of traveling from when I was under 12. I was on the Harry Barneville under 12 team with Paul Brickley. I went to tournaments there, Guildford and Woking in England. I went to France World Championships under 12 with Paul Brickley again. Remember, Richard Gasquet was there. He was the winner. He was 10 years old, and he won the under 12 tournament. He was a small little kid. He was so much better than everyone else. He was ridiculous talent. I remember my mom and dad were on the trip. My mom was saying he was speed, power, accuracy, and consistency. He had the one-handed backhand. He was hitting winners a couple of feet behind the baseline, and it was just incredible talent. He was just night and day better than everyone when he was there at 10 years old at this World Championship. So I knew I had a good exposure from when I was young, under 12. I knew how good the international players were, and I knew I was behind the 8 ball a little bit even at 12 in Ireland. You know, so I remember I think it was Declan Bray. Declan Bray was the coach in France. I remember he was saying that he thought Gasquet would be number 1 in under 16. Number 1 in 16, under 18. Maybe he was so good at the time. And then I went on another trip under 12 with Paul Brickley, French trip. I remember it was in Halloween, and it was Thomas Burditch was there. It was on red clay. So really another great experience, and grateful for my parents. Really, looking back, sacrificed a lot for me at a young age to have these international experiences. They were awesome. And there was 2 girls in the team, Emma Heffernan and Eva Turner, and there was myself and Paul Brickley, and they were just very amazing to look back at now, really, to realize the trips I went on there and the experience I had. It was incredible. And then from under 14, I went to Poland and Slovakia, Eastern European trip with Jim Watt. It was a group of us, I think it was 2 or 3 boys and girls, again on red clay. Bagdanis and Burditch were there, huge talents, and we were all good, but they were just a year ahead in terms of what they were doing with the ball and how big they were hitting it. And you could just see that they just had talent. They just had their hands. The overall ability was just it was just there to see. It was so obvious. And then the other trip that stood out for me was the one I mentioned before, playing the 4 Nations under 18, September 2001, beating David Brewer, who went on to be number 8 in the world under 18 ITFs, beating Wales, lost to England, and Andy Murray was there at a different venue playing number 1 for Scotland under 14. So I was in the mix there. I was certainly in the right place when I was there around 16, and that was probably about 8 or 9 months before I got that serious elbow injury. So I had a lot of travel from when I was young, around 12 years old. I had Garrett Dorn was my peer. He went on to play at Harvard, and John Dorn was always around. John was 7 years older than us, and he was a kind of a mentor to Garrett and I a little bit. And so I had good people. I had good people around me. I had a good, very good tennis upbringing. I eventually figured the elbow injury out. I think it was maybe after the Leaving Cert was done, and I played the summer of '03. I won Fitzwilliam National Championships in 2003 under 18. I think I beat Stephen O'Connor in the quarterfinals, James McGee in the semis, and then Morgan Dunn in the final. Remember, me and McGee was a corner court in Fitzwilliam. It was lashing rain, and I remember Paul was there watching that match in the corner there. So I have strong memories of that, and winning Fitzwilliam National under 18s rounded off my on a tennis career, and then I went off to college in the US to Notre Dame.
Yeah, very good. No, I think it's great to hear, especially those the trips you got to take. Abroad, seeing the likes of Gasquet, of Berdych, all those experiences, I think are they'd set you up so well for just going into college and then going on to further things in tennis.
I would just add there, looking back, if I were to say, right, how could I have not lost a step with those guys and kind of made it onto the tour and maxed out in the tennis wise and not gone the US college route? It would be if, particularly in fourth year, I would have liked to have spent 2 years in Spain, 15, 16, 17 on red clay, and just see how good I was at 17, 18, and then kind of go from there, and then maybe do what some people did, the likes of Paul Morrissey, do the Leaving Cert in 1 year, and then head off to college in the States, but wasn't quite at that top level.
Yeah. So just before we go on to touch on your time in college, what do you think was the biggest thing that you learned from your days in junior tennis?
I was always kind of the man to beat in my age group. So like it was hard for me because I always had a lot of pressure playing matches. So it was always like I didn't miss. I was always really solid. I was always the man to beat in playing my age groups in these tournaments. So like playing the matches, I was a bit hamstrung. I didn't like. I just was really solid. I didn't like missing. I didn't. I would have liked to. I probably, as I said to you, I highlighted maybe 5 or 6 international trips there. I would have liked to have done 15 or 20 over my 6 or 7 years of junior career. But my dad was a taxi driver and my mom was a housewife. So I have to be realistic. Like me traveling around the world in tennis, 14, 15, 16, 17 years old and going to a private school. I got a lot, I'm very happy with the sacrifices they made were incredible. So I can't really complain. Like everyone would love to be top 50 in the world and play Grand Slams and everything. But my parents put a lot into me, and I got a great experience from it.
Yeah, absolutely. Just then to touch onto your time in US college. You mentioned that you went to Notre Dame. How did that kind of, when you got there, when you got settled in, how did that compare to what you expected, based maybe on the trip or based on what you'd heard from other people about US college?
It was just a little bit strange in the sense that I was at that point. It was like there's just so much to take in. It was just so much to take in terms of the whole, like how big the college was, the scene there, and just trying to figure it all out, how the academic side and the tennis side. But it was the number 1 business school in America. I was the first Irish tennis guy there. I think there was someone there, Owen Byrne, in the late 1980s. I was the first Irish guy there in 20 years. So I was trying to kind of get myself right and trying to get myself fit. I hadn't, because of the Leaving Cert, I hadn't played that much tennis going over there. So I remember I had a wrist injury the first semester, and I was trying to make sure I made the lineup and trying to juggle all that. And then I eventually kind of started at number 5 in the lineup my freshman year, and I was not playing. To be honest, I was not playing as well as I was when I was 16. When I was kind of in the Casey camp with Paul, and then I was hitting with Peter Clark in Riverview. And when I was playing the first year at Notre Dame, was just trying to, I was just trying to kind of figure it out, make it into the lineup. And like I hadn't played pro for a year before college in the States. I was like, for example, I know Conor Ireland, other people played for a year pro before they played college tennis, played a lot of futures. I hadn't played that many futures. Coach Bobby Bayless, we had a long period of recruiting. He came to visit Ireland the year before I went over there, and my goal was to fit in, make it work. And he didn't really recruit international students, so he had myself and Irakli Akfadiani, a Georgian kid over there who trained in Austria. He's originally from Georgia, but he trained in Austria, and he had the two of us there, and we were trying. He had international kids, and he was trying to embed us with a group really of primarily Americans. So the team was not great at the time. They were ranked about 50 in the country, so it was a bit of a strange time to come into Notre Dame. They were good. They were like 15 in the country a year or two before, but they weren't strong when I came in. So I was 5 in the team, and that was my freshman year, and it was a lot of it was all about settling in and kind of feeling comfortable there.
Yeah, absolutely. And just so from those years in college there, what best memories do you look back at from that time, either tennis or otherwise?
The best memories looking back on that experience would be working. You know, we were team ranked 50 in the country. We went all the way up to top 5 in the country my last year. We ranked as high as number 4. We finished at number 6, and the team, I think it was the best team they've had in the last 25 years in the program. The team has to be ranked as high as that since I left, certainly. And I think that the 1992 team was slightly better than that. They made the final of the NCAA's. So working my way up with that team was the highlight. Top 5 in the country. I played as high as number 1 doubles and number 2 singles at some points over the 4 years. I was top 100 in the NCAA singles rankings, top 20 in doubles. And we had a great team and a great group of guys, great nucleus of guys. Ryan Keckley went on to be the head coach at the University of San Diego. Stephen Bass, who's an All-American, he beat Kevin Anderson and John Isner senior year. Shiva Parbu, he was an All-American as well. So we had a very, very strong team. The other highlight would have been finished on a huge high with the all-time single season record for doubles wins. And I was tied second of all time for season singles and doubles wins. So you know, I had a really strong senior year. I was playing number 4 singles and number 3 doubles. The team was very strong. We had 2 All-Americans. I would have liked to have played higher up the lineup. At one point, probably my second, third year, you know, it looked like I could get up to maybe one in the team. Stephen Bass kind of took off. He was third year, and he kind of went to another level over everyone else. So I played 2 or 3 my sophomore year. Then my junior year, I had shoulder tendonitis, struggled with my serve. I started at 2 or 3 and moved down to 4 or 5. And then my senior year, I was primarily at number 4. And it was a very strong team. And as I said to you, I think it's the best team they've had in the past 25, 28 years since the 92 team in terms of ranking.
Yeah, very good.
I made great friends there. I still have a huge professional network from there. I'm still heavily involved with Notre Dame and Notre Dame Club of Ireland. And it's been great to see some other Irish tennis people follow my footsteps heading over to Notre Dame, like Niall Fitzgerald on the men's side. My brother, also Graham King, he went there a couple of years after me. He was on the tennis team. He didn't make the lineup, but he was on the team there for 4 years. And then there was Jane Fenley on the women's side. So I like to think that I created a bit of a pipeline there for Irish people to follow my footsteps and go to Notre Dame.
Yeah, very good. So when you finished up then in Notre Dame, how ready did you feel to go onto the pro game? How was that transition for you into the pro game?
When I finished playing, when I finished college in Notre Dame, as I said, I finished on a high. I still kind of felt that I had unfinished business with tennis. So I wanted to play. I wanted to kind of at least play Davis Cup and kind of round that out and round that side of my life out. I was playing summer tournaments in 2007. I got an injury in summer '07. I tore my pectoral muscle, which meant that I couldn't serve. So it was a bad injury, bad muscle injury, and I couldn't serve. So it was tough. It was tough going. So I worked in finance for a year, and I coached tennis at the weekend. The tennis bug still hadn't gone by the summer of '08, and I beat Conor Nyland there in the Irish Close in Donnybrook, and before losing in the final to Owen Heavey. And I decided to go on tour after that. Nyland was about 250 in the world, playing qualies at Grand Slams. So I decided that he was Irish number one. I think he was in around Irish number one, and he was kind of 250 and one. I decided to go on tour and target Davis Cup and getting as high up the rankings as I could in singles and doubles. So I had worked for a year beforehand, and I had finances that I'd earned to play. And so I was excited about playing. DCU was my base, was my training base when I was playing full time. Gary was there. It was a good setup. Gary Cahill was there. It was a good setup. There was a gym. There was ice baths. There was a good structure in place. There was a good training base. A good group of pros training there at the time. Nyland, James McGee was there sometimes. Colin O'Brien, Sam Barry was 16 or 17, Tristan Faramahan, James Kluski when he finished at LSU, and there was a good group. It was a good structure, and I enjoyed the training there. The landscape, looking back, the landscape in Irish tennis at the time was a limited number of professional tournaments. It was a financial recession, and Nyland and Sorensen were, a good leap above me in singles. It was a difficult decision for me to make, but I'm comfortable with stopping then. I would have liked to have played a Grand Slam like Nyland, Sorensen, and McGee made, but I'm proud and comfortable with what I achieved in tennis from Ireland. Looking back on it all, I played, as you say, I played guys like Giles Muller and Davis Cup, won the first set in front of a packed crowd in Riverview, and I won my Davis Cup debut doubles match with James McGee, beating top 100 guy Marcel Lillehan. So I had big wins. I proved I could play with those guys, and I proved that I could mix it at Davis Cup. I could have done. I didn't move that well, and I wasn't that talented, but I was a solid serve, and it was a solid ground strokes. I could have had maybe more variety to my game and been a bit more of a net player, but I was comfortable with what I achieved. And as I said, I think I could have done better in doubles, but I'm happy enough the way it all worked out.
Yeah, it's good to hear. And just for you, what was kind of the hardest thing about playing pro tennis? Like, what was the biggest challenge for you in that?
It was a hard 2 or 3 years in the sense that constantly analysing yourself, constantly analysing whether, constantly beating yourself up a little bit out there on the money you're spending. Am I doing the right thing here? Being out here, is this going to be all worthwhile? There's so many sacrifices that you're making. It's a huge financial cost of playing, and just taking a loss out in somewhere like Turkey. Losing 7-6, 7-6 in the first round of the future to like a really, really good player, and playing so well and playing great tennis for 3 hours, and it's searing heat, and you lose in the first round, and it's you're doing well, and you're doing a good job, but you're very far away from where you need to be, to kind of fulfill your goals. So that was tough. But having said that, I was lucky that I was an Irish pro. There's a few of us doing it, and it was great support and great to play Davis Cup. And I would have done certain things differently to get the most out of my game, and that. But it's tough taking the losses on the road. It's tough taking the losses on the road, and kind of coming home. I was living at home with my parents, and it's tough taking the losses and picking up a check for 100 or 200 euro playing a future.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to touch onto Davis Cup, you mentioned that one of your biggest highlights was that tie against Tunisia. But for that first Davis Cup for you, how did it feel to be selected for the team for the first time?
Yeah, it was a very strong team at the time. Sorensen, Ireland, McGee, and myself. McGee and I playing doubles in Fitzwilliam. It was good. It was nice to kind of finally get the Davis Cup cap, play live matches, win at that level, and it was nice. Like, I wasn't setting the world alight internationally, but for me it was nice to get to that level and play Davis Cup and to kind of tick that box. I have to put in perspective, Adam. Like, I'm a big Irish sports fan, so like, you see Brian O'Driscoll, what he did in Irish rugby with Leinster and Ireland. Johnny Sexton, who kind of grew up with me in Rathgar when I started playing with Leinster, Ireland, and the Lions. You see Harrington winning 3 majors. Shane Lowry recently, what he's done with the British Open. So like, yeah, I did quite well, but I was a good Irish player. I would have liked to have done more. I would have liked to have set my goals, raised my goals, and set my bar higher when I was 15 or 16. It was always kind of drilled into me that it was very hard to make it from Ireland, to be top 100. Nobody had ever done it. It was hard to make a living out. It was always drilled into me that it's so hard to make it from Ireland, and it's almost impossible to do the leaving cert and make it and figure it all out. So I would have liked to have set my goals slightly different and surrounded myself with a slightly not better training base. Had a really good training base, but just change the mindset a little bit. Try and change the mindset a little bit. Try and tap into Irish golf or Irish boxing or Leinster rugby, and just at the time, and just try and change the mindset a little bit.
That's really interesting you say that. Yeah. And just on that Davis Cup tie in 2011 against Tunisia, when you won the deciding rubber, how do you look back on that match and on that weekend?
Oh yeah, amazing. Yeah, it's like, I have to put it in perspective. Like, talking to say family members. I have my wife's cousin is an Olympic swimmer. He was number 1 in Ireland Olympic swimmer. He's Irish records. And then there's people. One of her cousins is number 1 or 2 in Ireland in table tennis. But for me, it was a personal thing. When the deciding match, I still think of it every day, and hitting certain shots and having the Irish flag and celebrating with my folks. And it's massive at the time, meant a huge amount. But you move on and you look back at fond memories. I don't like dwelling. I try not to dwell on that stuff too much. You try and improve yourself every day, and you try and use these positive experiences to improve yourself in other areas of life, and to be a better person every day.
Yeah.
But it was incredible at the time. Ireland played main draw Wimbledon, the first Irish guy in whatever it was 30 so years to qualify for main draw Wimbledon. I was playing 2 singles behind him, and it was Irish tennis is a little kind of bubble, but at the time it felt like we were doing good for Irish tennis people. So that was something to be proud of at the time.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier, kind of as it came to around 2011, and when you decided to retire from pro tennis. You mentioned a few of the reasons for that, but was there a moment when things kind of built up and you decided that it was time to throw in the pro rackets?
It was I just didn't see, like, James McGee at the time was set on continuing the pro life and trying to get the most out of it. He was going to move to the US and train out there and go that route, and I just didn't see myself doing that. I felt I was going to leverage my degree from Notre Dame and my finance experience, and just take what I had achieved in tennis and move into the working world. I definitely could have been better. I definitely was thereabouts with McGee. I could have potentially gone that route and tried to be Irish number 1 and play a slam and base myself out in the US when I was 26 and gone that route. And but I took a different route. I went into finance. I met my wife when I was 27, and my future wife when I was 27, and that's where it took me. So um, I certainly did things my own way, as my mom always said to me. Certainly done things your own way. When I was finishing playing tennis, I just was a rocky road. It was up, down, everywhere, rocky road. But sometimes it was tough. Sometimes I would have loved to have played a slam, but I'm happy with my body work.
Yeah. So you then move, as you said, you move kind of into the world of finance when you retire from pro tennis. Like, what skills do you think you got from tennis that helped you when you moved into that kind of into the finance world?
A kind of a ruthless mindset, ruthless mindset, and then kind of reading people, and being able to read people quickly. I've been able to read people's intentions quickly, and there's a certain respect for being kind of international sportsman and doing relatively well on the global stage. People know tennis is a tough global sport, so there's a certain respect for it. Yeah, absolutely. And then I played a few events. I played a Finance Cup event from 2016 2019, alternated between the US and Europe every year. I did this event with John Doran since 2016, and then Stuart Doyle joined us in 2019 before COVID hit.
Okay, so that's kind of a way to cross over your worlds of tennis and finance.
Oh, brilliant way to do it. And there's a shared experience there, the shared journey. The tennis community is very small, and people look out for each other, whether they went the US route or they went straight to the futures and the challengers, and or the top 100. There's some Grand Slam winners there. The Finance Cup, the likes of Richie Renenberg, former world number one is Alex O'Brien. Some really quality players there. I would have been, middle of the pack, like very much middle of the road there in terms of my achievements. So it's nice to be involved and at that level.
I know in 2019 you moved very much back into the world of tennis, when you started the role as performance director in Westwood Leopardstown. So how was that for you to come back into tennis after a few years more in finance?
Yeah, I'm a lead tennis program director at the moment in Westwood Leopardstown. There's I set up an elite tennis academy there. I'm just wanted to get back involved, trying to improve junior tennis in Ireland and the overall infrastructure. And just there's 2 domes up there, two domes, 14 indoor courts, and there's huge potential up there. So I wanted to get back involved a little bit. I know tennis will always be part of my life, and it's nice to be back involved and helping out a little bit.
Yeah. What do you see as kind of the changes in Irish tennis, in the years since you were playing? How do you think things have changed?
I'm not involved in. I've been out of it. I was Davis Cup team coach 2016 to 18. I did that with Conor Ireland, and I kind of was helping out the next generation. And I obviously know, I know James McGee and Dave O'Hare and Sam Barry very well, and they were kind of the nucleus of the team in 2017. Bulgaria 2017 stood out for me, clinching promotion in Bulgaria. It was extremely tough conditions, and beating Bulgaria in the playoff was a huge win. It was tough conditions all week. The weather conditions, there was problems with the floodlights during the week. Everything was against us, but I love the buzz of it. And for me, I'd like to see tennis just more in the mainstream of the Irish media and the Irish sporting psyche. So I'd like to see, more. I'd love to see more pro tournaments. With COVID now, obviously, it's very difficult to envisage that happening in the short term without someone really up there at the highest level. But I'd like to just see more pro tournaments, more in the ATP 250 challengers and futures would be great. At some point, just to see it more in the mainstream of Irish sport, trying to, along with Irish golf, and kind of a couple of the other sports. That'd be great to see at some point.
Yeah, how do you think that could be done to bring tennis more into the mainstream here in Ireland? What do you think needs to change for that to be the case?
I see it hard to gotta go to get into the mainstream. I feel like it's going to be hard because I feel like it's um, just looking at what we've got at the moment, the junior side. I feel like it's going to be hard to break into the stranglehold that rugby, Gaelic, and soccer have on the Irish sporting psyche. I just feel like it's a tough uphill battle. I feel like a pro tournament every year would be great, obviously, but if there's not an Irish person up there, how worthwhile of a financial investment is it? Would it be? If we don't have someone in the top 20 or 50, well, how worthwhile is it having an ATP 250 on? Um, yeah, we'll put tennis in the in the kind of focus point of the Irish media for a week, but with rugby players playing for the Lions, winning European trophies, Irish golfers winning majors, Conor McGregor, most famous sporting, one of the most famous sporting celebrity in the world. I just think it's hard to capture the attention, unless you've got a big, huge talent coming through, like a Sissy Pass from Greece, like a Baghdadis in my time from Cyprus, a Dimitrov from Bulgaria, Murray from Scotland, just a big talent who comes through, and it doesn't matter where he come from or his tennis infrastructure or what service he's growing up on, that he's going to make it anyway. Just a huge talent. Like, there was no one in my generation who had a huge talent that you said, oh, if this guy matches out his talent, he's going to be top 20 or top 50. There's no one in my lifetime of tennis where I was like, this guy's just like how I described Gasquet when I saw him when he was 10 years old. There was no one in that realm at all. It was all hardworking, great families, good kids, good academic workers, wanted to get the best out of their tennis journey. But there's been no super talents I've seen, and I haven't seen any super talents since I've got back involved in the tennis scene. I've seen a lot of the similar my generation hard workers, solid from both sides. I don't see like big talents where they can just rip through someone. Like, you see Tsitsipas coming out at 18 or 19, and he's got the one hander, and he's ripping balls, and he's coming into the net, and he's got an all round game. And I don't see that see that anything like that at the moment. If I think it's possible to make it from here if you have the talent and the family upbringing behind you, but I don't see a super talent around at the moment.
It's interesting. I agree with that. It does take, you need. Obviously, it's a big help to have a player with a lot of success that will then help bring tennis into the media. That's kind of, it's almost chicken and egg, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Just Barry, I appreciate your time. Just have a couple more questions for you before we finish up. I'd like to go into a quick fire round. So some quick answers, quick questions. Fire through a few. So you ready?
Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah. Serve or return?
Return.
Forehand or backhand?
Backhand.
Indoor or outdoor?
Indoor.
Long juice or short juice?
Long juice.
Your favorite tournament and why?
Favorite tournament to play would be Davis Cup.
Favorite surface?
Favorite surface would be indoor hard court.
Play lets or not?
Don't play lets. Old school on that.
Yeah. Tennis or finance?
Tennis.
One rule change you would make to tennis?
I would try and make it more entertainment based. I'd get rid of the 5-minute warm up. I'd get rid of the line judges, and I'd try and interact the crowd more with the players.
Good. One piece of advice you would give your younger self if you could go back in time?
Surround yourself with positive people. Making it in sport from Ireland is tough. Surround yourself with positive people. Good people, and try and have a good team around you of positive energy and positive people around you. I think from hearing particularly from James McGee, anytime I met up with him when he was on the Challenger Tour and over in the US playing Challengers, he said they always say to me, it's a game of teams and mindset. It's about having good people around you and having a good mindset every day, going from week to week, traveling to these places and trying to produce at the higher level. So I would try and say, have positive people around you and a good training environment that you enjoy going into train every day, and it's you're developing not just in the tennis world, but you're developing your personality, you're developing your social skills, you're developing all these other things that are going to stand you in the rest of your life, stand to you in the rest of your life outside the tennis court, which is so important that you're able to flourish outside. You can talk about any area of life. You're well rounded, and you've a strong person coming out of the tennis bubble.
Yeah. And finally, your favorite thing about tennis?
Favorite thing about it will be the one-on-one battles, the one-on-one battle. The fact that you can't talk to anyone, and the fact it's all on you, and it's all on you. There's nowhere to hide. You can't pass the ball to anyone. You can't blame someone else. It's all on you. It's up to you whether you're going to get the job done. You can't blame anyone else when you're finished with it. So it's totally individual. It's developed some selfish traits, but it's all about you.
Yeah, it's very good stuff. Good stuff. I think, Barry, we will leave it there. Taking up enough of your time today. A big thanks for coming on, for talking today. We really enjoyed that, getting some of the insights. So yeah, a big thanks. All the best to you.
Thanks, Adam, for having me on. Well done on what you're doing, updating everyone about Irish tennis. You're obviously into it, so well done on that. And thanks for having me on.
Thanks very much. Big thanks once again to Barry King for his time. Really enjoyed chatting, and I hope you enjoyed that chat as well. A big thanks to everyone for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, I'd encourage you to like, to leave a review, to share the podcast with anyone that you think might also enjoy it. If you're listening to this as it goes out, I hope you have a good Christmas, a safe Christmas. Also hope that you are enjoying playing tennis at the moment while we are allowed to. So that is all from me. Until the next episode, I've been Adam, and goodbye.